How much does the average person retire with? The answer, according to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, is roughly $200,000. That's the median retirement savings for Americans between 65 and 74, not the average, which is higher because a small number of wealthy retirees pull the average up. The median. The middle. The person in the exact center of the distribution. $200,000. For a retirement that could last 25 to 30 years. That's the number this video starts with. By the end, it won't look the same. I'm Warren. 20 videos of building the system, pyramid, routine, rules, portfolio, snowball, milestones, crossover point, external threats. Today is the video that shows what happens when the system isn't built. When the compound curve from video 15 never starts. When the snowball from video 16 never rolls. When the grind zone is never entered because the first dollar was never invested. $200,000 at 65 is the outcome of that path, and the math on it is brutal. $200,000 withdrawn at the 4% rule from video 11 produces $8,000 a year. That's $667 a month. Add Social Security, which pays the average retired worker roughly $1,975 a month as of 2025. Total monthly income, roughly $2,640. That's before taxes, and after federal and state taxes on the Social Security portion, depending on the state, the take-home is closer to $2,400. The median monthly household expenditure for Americans 65 and older is roughly $4,000 to $200, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey. Housing, healthcare, food, transportation, utilities. The basics. Not travel, not dining out, not gifts for grandchildren. The basics. $2,400 of income against $4,200 of expenses. The gap is roughly $1,800 a month, every month, for 25 to 30 years. If you're in your 30s or 40s watching this, that gap is the math your future self lives inside if the system from this series isn't running. $1,800 a month of unfunded expenses, every month, for potentially 3 decades. That's the cost of not starting. Not the cost of picking the wrong fund. Not the cost of a bad year in the market. The cost of never building the machine at all. Here's where the median number becomes even more alarming. 54% of American households report having no dedicated retirement savings whatsoever. Zero. Not 200,000? Zero. The median of 200,000 includes only the households that have something saved. If all households were included, the median drops dramatically. For more than half the country, the retirement plan is Social Security alone. $1,975 a month, against $4,200 in expenses, a gap of $2,225 a month, every month, with no portfolio to supplement it. No 4% rule, no crossover point, no snowball, just a government check that was never designed to be the sole source of retirement income. The people in that 54% aren't irresponsible. Many of them earned decent incomes across 40-year careers, but they never started the system. They never opened the Roth IRA, never set up the automatic transfer, never entered the grind zone from video 15. And without the grind zone, there's no crossover. Without the crossover, there's no snowball. Without the snowball, there's 200,000 or less. The absence of the system isn't punished immediately. It's punished at 65, when the numbers can't be changed, and the compound curve that was never started can never be started. The Social Security Administration states this explicitly on its own website. Social Security replaces roughly 40% of pre-retirement income for the average earner. 40%. The system was designed as a supplement, not a replacement. And yet for millions of Americans, it's the only income source in retirement. The gap between what the system provides and what life costs is the defining financial reality of American retirement. And it's a gap that most people discover only after they've stopped working. By then, the only variable that could have closed it, time, has been spent. There's a second layer that compounds the problem. Healthcare. The average retired couple will need roughly $330,000 for healthcare expenses during retirement, according to Fidelity's annual estimate. That number isn't included in the $4,200 monthly expense figure. It's on top of it. Medicare covers a portion of healthcare costs, but not all. Dental, vision, hearing, long-term care, and many prescription drugs are either partially covered or not covered at all. A person who retires at 65 with $200,000 in savings and relies on that plus Social Security to cover 30 years of living expenses and healthcare costs is facing a structural deficit that no amount of budgeting can close. The math doesn't work, not because the person failed, because the math was never viable at that savings level. Consider what $330,000 in healthcare costs means spread across a 25-year retirement. That's roughly $13,200 a year, $1,100 a month. Add that to the $4,200 in baseline expenses. Total, $5,300 a month, against $2,400 in income from savings plus Social Security. The gap grows from $1,800 to $2,900 a month, nearly $3,000 a month of unfunded expenses for a quarter century. The numbers aren't abstract. They're the difference between a retirement that works and one that slowly collapses. If you've been following this series from video 1, the contrast between the 200,000 median and the milestones from video 17 is the entire point. At 35, the benchmark was 150,000. A person who hits that benchmark at 35 and continues the system, contributing, compounding, not touching the portfolio, reaches roughly 800,000 to 1 million by 65. That's 4 to 5 times the median. Not because they earned 4 to 5 times as much, because they started the snowball 25 to 30 years before retirement and let the curve do the work. The difference between 200,000 and 1 million at 65 is almost entirely explained by when the first dollar was invested and whether contributions continued through the grind zone. Devin from video 13 started at 25. By 60, his projected portfolio was 3.2 million. Priya, who started later and paused once, was projected at 940,000. Elise from video 17, who started at 27 with a late entry, was on track for roughly 700,000 to 800,000 by 60. All three of them earn ordinary salaries. None of them picked stocks. None of them inherited money. They built the machine and let it run. The median retiree at 200,000 didn't build the machine, or built it late, or stopped it in the middle. The gap between Devin's 3.2 million and the median 200,000 is 30 years of compounding. That's all. Same country, same economy, same index fund available to both, different starting point, different consistency, different outcome by a factor of 16. Here's the detail that this video exists to deliver, and it's the one that connects the retirement data to every person currently in the accumulation phase. The retirement crisis in the United States isn't caused by low incomes. The median household income for Americans aged 45 to 54 is roughly $75,000. At a 20% savings rate, that's $15,000 a year into a portfolio. Invested at 7% real return over 20 years, that produces roughly $650,000. At 10% nominal, closer to $900,000. The income is sufficient, the savings rate is the variable, and the savings rate is a decision, not a circumstance. The Federal Reserve data supports this. Among households with incomes above $75,000, the median retirement savings is roughly $430,000. Among households with incomes above $100,000, it's roughly $750,000. These are not millionaires. These are dual-income households with ordinary jobs, school teachers married to accountants, nurses married to IT managers, making combined incomes in the low six figures. The difference between them and the median retiree with $200,000 isn't talent, luck, or inheritance. It's a savings rate above 15% maintained for more than 20 years. That's the entire variable. The retirement crisis isn't a wage crisis. It's a behavior crisis. And every video in this series has been engineering the behavior that solves it. The pyramid told the person where the money goes first. The routine automated the transfer so the decision only happens once. The rules protected the portfolio from behavioral mistakes. The milestones showed when each threshold arrives. The crossover point showed when the portfolio takes over. And the external threat videos showed why staying invested matters even when markets are volatile. The entire series is a single answer to a single question. How does a person earning an ordinary income avoid retiring with $200,000? The answer is the system. Built early, run consistently, never stopped. The numbers make it even clearer when placed side by side. A person earning $60,000 who saves zero for retirement and relies on Social Security. Roughly $23,000 a year in retirement income. A person earning the same $60,000 who saves 15% starting at 30 and invests in VTY. roughly $55,000 to $70,000 a year in retirement income from portfolio withdrawals plus Social Security combined. Same salary, same economy, same lifetime earnings, 3 times the retirement income. The only difference is the automatic transfer that ran every month for 35 years. The 4% rule from Video 11 showed that a comfortable $50,000 retirement requires $1.25 million. The milestones from Video 17 showed the benchmarks at 30, 33, 35, and 38 that keep the snowball on track. The snowball math from Video 16 showed that reaching 1 million takes roughly 25 years at $500 a month. Every component of the system connects to this moment, this video, this number. 200,000. That's the destination for the path without the system. 1 million or more is the destination for the path with it. If you're watching this in your 30s, the gap is still closable. The compound curve hasn't even started bending yet, which means the steepest part of the growth is still ahead. If the benchmarks from Video 17 are met, the 200,000 median becomes irrelevant because the trajectory is already pointed somewhere else entirely. The person who hits 150,000 at 35 isn't on the same curve as the median retiree. They're on Devon's curve, and Devon's curve reaches 7 figures. If you're watching this in your 40s, the gap is harder to close but not impossible. The catch-up protocol from Video 17, increasing the savings rate quarterly and redirecting windfalls, compresses the timeline. The curve still bends, it just bends later. And every year of contributions in the 40s enters the snowball during a phase where compound interest is already contributing more than the person. The 401k catch-up contribution at 50 allows an additional $7,500 per year on top of the standard limit. At 60 through 63, a temporary super catch-up raises that even further to $11,000 to $250. Those aren't small amounts. A person who maxes out catch-up contributions from 50 to 65 adds roughly $112,000 in additional contributions alone before compounding. With market returns, that catch-up could produce $200,000 to $250,000 in additional retirement savings. The 40s aren't too late. They're the last window. And that's the next video. The number from the beginning of this video was 200,000. The median, the middle. The outcome for the person who either didn't start or didn't continue. For the person watching this who has started, who is contributing, who built the system or is building it now, that number is a map of someone else's destination, not a prediction. A reminder of what the alternative looks like. And the alternative, $2,600 a month against $4,200 in expenses with no mechanism to close the gap, is the strongest possible argument for the $500 monthly transfer that sometimes feels pointless during the flat stretch of the curve. It's not pointless. It's the difference between Devon's trajectory and the median. The difference between enough and not enough. The difference between a retirement where the person chooses how to spend Monday and a retirement where Monday is spent calculating whether the grocery budget can stretch another week. 200,000. That's the number. It's real. It's the median outcome. And it doesn't have to be the outcome for anyone watching this who still has working years ahead. The system from this series produces a different number. The compound curve produces a different number. The snowball produces a different number. The only requirement is the same one from every video since Video 7. Start, automate, and don't stop. The math does the rest. And the math, unlike motivation, doesn't take days off. Next, how banks use the income information people voluntarily give them. The data, the products, the targeting, and the system designed to extract maximum revenue from every customer who walks through the door. That's the next video.